panel, we're going to take a slight change of direction and talk about technology. Context here. Oh, that's much better. Much better. Frame this discussion up. In 1997, I was a relatively young product manager working for Nokia, and I was in charge of the Nokia 9000 series communicator, the brick, as it was affectionately known. In fact, Indonesia was the second best-selling market in the world after Germany for this product. Did anyone have the Nokia 9000 series? Okay, it sort of tells me how old you are if you're putting your hand up. You're sort of but the thing was, at the time, that was the world's first internet-capable mobile device. And in fact, it wasn't very smart. It had fax and a couple of very other basic applications. The problem was, not many people had the internet back then. And if they did, configuring this device, I don't know if you remember, Imron, was a little complicated for a non-technical person. It was in fact an Indonesian developer by the name of InTouch that solved the configuration problem with this particular device, and that solution went global. If we fast forward 22 years to 2019, the internet-capable devices in this country now stand at 171 million. That's 65% of the population that carry a device in their pocket that can access the internet. And I think this presents an enormous opportunity when we talk about how to accelerate towards the achievement of the SDG2 goal. Simple things like the access to financial services. One of the panel members before talked about the provision of education and learning out in the field. So it's exciting times. And now, of course, we've got advanced artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, I'm sure we're going to talk about blockchain today. And the question I would start off with is, how can we harness some of these emerging technologies to accelerate those audacious goals of having zero hunger, zero malnutrition by 2030. So with that, I'll introduce firstly Imron Zuhri, who's a fellow entrepreneur and co-founder of Hara, based here in Jakarta. And on his left, Suhendro, who represents a corporate organisation. He's the country lead of Bayer Crop Science. So we've got an entrepreneur, we've got some corporate, and I will endeavour to facilitate the discussion. So perhaps we'll start with Imron. Do you want to give us a little bit of an insight into what you're up to at the moment, how you view the role of technology in achieving the SDG2 goals? Thank you.
Yeah, that's quite a mouthful.
Quite a mouthful, yeah.
Well, what we're trying to do is actually quite simple in the beginning. We don't even think about SDGs. Hara is a subsidiary company of a DataBot, which is a big data analytics company. So of course, when we venture first into agriculture, what we wanted to do is doing precision ag. That's what we did in 2015. So in 2 years' time, we worked with 1,500 maize farmers and trying to improve their productivity. And we were quite successful at the time. We improved their productivity by 27% and reduced their cost by 50%. Using drones and everything, all the gadgets. But then when we tried to scale it outside the pilot area, we suddenly, we can't. We simply can't. We just realized that this country has no data on agriculture whatsoever. Do you know that not a single government agency in this country have a database of farmers that are verified? The biggest holder of data is Pupuk Indonesia, probably 13.5 million, and Ministry of Agriculture 9.5 million, which is approved by the DPR for their subsidized fertilizer. That's it. But the database is not verified. And I'm talking about land size. Indonesia is so diversified that we have almost 200 different ways of measurement. So when you go to a farmer and ask how big is your land, and they're saying, okay, my land is 200 stones in this part, and the other side is, oh, my land is between that tree over there and that river over there. So now I understand why banks are reluctant to give loans to these farmers. And when we try to convince several companies to help us in terms of crop insurance, and they all say, oh, we failed before. In fact, one of the biggest national insurance that are doing subsidized crop insurance, their loss is around 75%. But of course, your loss is that big if you're securing something that you don't know. They're securing unknown lands, of course. So that's what we did. So after that, we take a step back, and then we created Hara, which is basically like a Gojek apps where someone can download and voluntarily become our data collectors. So we collect farmers' data. Right now, it's almost 30,000 farmers. And then we connect them with their stakeholders. Right now, we're working with BTPN Syariah Bank and BNI and soon BRI, and also with some local banks. And we also going to work with that same national insurance company, but now create a commercial product of the same insurance. But we were also working with other startups who will make sure that the claim process will be in 2 weeks instead of 2 months. So that's what we do, and then what we're trying to do is to create this social infrastructure to collect basic data, because there's nothing we can do on machine learning and everything else if you don't have the basic data. And right now, it's just two data that we're trying to collect. First, verified identity of real farmers, so not the dead ones, which you can find a lot of them in the current government data. A lot of dead farmers or fictitious farmers, because it's all related to subsidies. And also land polygons, because once you have the land polygons, then you can use cheap satellites. We're working with Space, for example, that are so cheap. They only charge us $1,000 for 900 kilometer squares, and they can provide imagery up to every 15 days, so we can do simple crop countings cheaply. And then now we also not only acquiring the farmers' data, but we also acquiring a small farmer shops that supplying fertilizers, seeds, and everything. But the key is to create this social infrastructure, so they become the hub. Because when we distribute loans, we found out also that it's so bloody difficult to do because there is no ATM near the farms. And also signals. We're talking, how could we talk about Industrial 4.0 if in Java, our signal coverage in terms of internet is only 30%? Yeah. Only 30%, and it is confirmed by the Kominfo, because when we asked them, oh yeah, when we told you that we have 80% internet penetration, we don't really count farmlands, only high density population. So yeah, it's my fault.
Yeah. So Imron, this is fascinating. So let's assume we fast forward 5 to 10 years from now. So you've got data and you've got a signal. How could you harness some of these technologies, the artificial intelligence, the blockchain, to improve the lives of small farmers?
The artificial intelligence should be easy because it's not a matter of algorithm or tools. You know, it's readily available on the cloud. It's cheap. The biggest problem is we don't have enough training sets. So that's why we need to have ground data, because we need training set to train this amount of data in terms of recognizing pests, recognizing whether it is harvest time, and all of this that can actually help the other partners that we have, the bank, the insurance, the fertilizer company, anybody, to make a better prediction. Now, the blockchain part is actually why it is there, because the data has to be verified. Okay, we cannot guarantee the accuracy of the data, but what we can do is to make sure that the data is there and no one can tamper with it. So if someone lying, it's there to eternity. So at least we know that someone is lying over. So that's why blockchain is important, because then we provide accountabilities. And also to make sure that the data is not only stored within Hara. So some part of the data is available for the public, because we believe data should be available for everyone to see, because otherwise if the data cannot be shared, there's no way we can collaborate. The biggest problem right now with everybody having data is they all want to keep the data for themselves. It's all in silos.
And in terms of business model, how do you make money from this? I mean, you obviously need to make a living.
Yeah. Well, at this moment, we're still subsidizing the data acquisition part, but then the banks actually share the revenue with us, the insurance share the revenue with us, and also the kiosks share the revenue with us. So, you know, by making everyone sharing the revenue, then the data is actually making sense.
So data plus signal equals
Yes.
revenue. Very good. Okay, we might pull up at that and pass across to Suhendro. Could you give us some context or your thoughts around the use of technology in a company like Bayer Crop Science?
Thank you, Tom. Is it okay now? Yeah, good afternoon. So I've been asked to share a little bit on what Bayer has been done and keep doing to digital innovation in agriculture. So there are some part in digitalization that we think through and going forward. Two things. First thing is about the efficiency in our production and also for breeding, which is internal. Then we build certain algorithm, data analytics to make it the production more efficient, and also the breeding technology to bring our new technology faster and shorter to the market. So with, for example, as you may be familiar with CRISPR technology, it will bring the hybrid technology normally up to 6 years to the market. Now with CRISPR, you can reduce to become half of it. So only 3 years you can bring this to the market. That is for internal. Now to the external people, we are thinking about the customer. So in the customer aspect, we bring the technology of the drone to the market to make the farmer becoming more efficient, comfortable, and also spraying with less water, which means avoiding also the pollution, because now you only spray to the target crops. It's not just spraying to the whole field. With that one, the drone will bring a significant improvement on the efficiency in agriculture. That is number one. Number two, we are also thinking about how to help the farmer to sell the produce to the market. So with that, we built the apps, what we call as Farm In. And this Farm In has been launched in Indonesia, in East Java, for example. And at the moment, this is only for rice crops, because when the farmer harvests the yield, they just take the picture and send to these apps. These apps will recognize and let the farmer know the grade of the rice crop, whether it will be grade A, B, or C. And then what is the market price for grade A, grade B, and grade C. These apps give a recommendation, and then they ask the farmer whether you want to sell this yield, this harvest to the market, to the marketplace or not. If yes, then at what price you want to sell? At recommended price, or maybe you can mark up, increase, or you can decrease the price, depending on the farmer's judgment, whether he wants to sell at what price. After the farmer judges this and send the information to the apps will find a purchaser or buyer. In this case, can be somebody from rice milling, can be somebody from middleman. So they will just see the data, and they try to confirm whether they agree with the price that the farmer indicating into the apps. If they agree, they can push the button, yes, I will purchase how many ton, and then they will link this transaction into the third party, which is transportation. So this apps connecting farmer, purchaser or buyer, and then transportation company. So these three all links together, and then you don't need to involve any money into this transaction, because this money is not in cash. Everything is in digital. So that is the apps to help the farmer, especially rice farmer in East Java, that we launched since last year into the Indonesian market. Now the next one, what we are going to improve from this farm-in is Farm Rice. Farm Rice is the apps that we launched in American market and also in some Asia Pacific market like India. So Farm Rice allowing you not just to sell or connecting the purchaser, farmer, and transporter, but these apps also recognizing the disease, the pest. When you take the picture, send it, and then these apps will give you indication what kind of problem that you are facing with. And also allowing you to interact with the moderator, consultation. That is about the farm rice. So this is about the climate, the microclimate, about temperature, about consultation, about recognizing the problem when you take the picture. That is farm rice. We still have another one, which is field view. In field view, we put the sensor into agriculture equipment. Can be the tractor, can be the drone. This sensor will recognize not just soil fertility, but also the microclimate, the microtemperature. So it's recognized everything, the data from the farm. And this will be collected for further analysis, for further recommendation. In certain area, you may need certain nitrogen, certain phosphate. Then after all the data being collected, the history of the harvest being collected, then this app with certain algorithms start to give recommendation to the farmer on how big the fertilizer needed for certain crops, certain land, or even this land only suitable for certain varieties, because the history show that you plant with certain varieties indicating certain result or certain yield. So this is what Bayer try to do, but it's not just stop in this area, because now we are developing the tools not just based on infrared to recognize the problem in crop from the drone, but also the sensor that recognizing the pest and disease from the distance by looking into the symptom. This is still on the prototype because a lot of things still in a difficult situation. For example, 2 or 3 different diseases produce the same symptom. So that's why sometimes the signal may put to the wrong indication because 2 or 3 different fungus or diseases produce the same signal. But we are trying to improve this because it is not just about artificial intelligence, but we are trying to develop the machine learning. So by doing something right or wrong, this machine start to learn to be better and better. So we are developing something in the sensor, in the drone, including the robotics. So in the future, you may see the robotics in agriculture when you see the weeds. Today, it's manual with control or spraying with herbicide. In the future, the robot take control on this, recognizing the difference between the crop and the weeds, and the robot start to shoot something electrostatic. It's not chemical anymore. It's a kind of like electricity. And then they shoot this weeds, the weeds dies. So it's all this complicated technology that working behind the scene that we are bringing in the next 3 to 4 years to the market. But now what is available today that we are trying to demonstrate to the Indonesian farmer is about the drone technology, also the apps technology that bringing the customer, the farmer closer to the market, including in the near future we will bring this technology field view, which today only available in US and Europe. We will soon bring this to Indonesia to be used by our Indonesian farmer. But then there are one thing that is still becoming a challenge in this technology, because this technology can only work well in the large scale. But here you see the land ownership is very small. This is the challenge when you deal with a small scale of the farmer, we need to group the farmer to become a farmer group or farmer association and bring all the land side by side together, becoming one unity of the land, so we can map this together. Because all this technology is based on mapping. And we are not using the mapping of satellite only, because satellite sometimes the deviation can be very big. So now we are using the RTK, which is smaller, so the precision is up to the 2 centimeter precision when you map the land. So that's something that we in Bayer trying to develop in terms of digitalization in agriculture.
Thanks, Suhendro. You know, I'm curious, to collect data, you need to get an app onto someone's device.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that? You know, farmers we know are getting older. In Thailand, average age 59, here a bit younger.
Yeah.
How do you go about training and educating those particular people to download the app and to get the benefit that you're looking from? Is that a challenge for you?
Yeah, this is a big challenge, especially for the older farmer, which is not really, fully aware with the new technology. But for younger farmer, this can be very, very beneficial, and also they are really welcoming with this new technology, especially with smartphone technology. But for the older people, yes, it is a big challenge. But then as you see that the transformation itself in the agriculture start to happen. Yes, I have to agree that still so many farmer is in a senior age. It's not in a young population. So more and more of the farmer is older, above 50, especially in this developing country. But then when the youngster coming, they start to be open with the new technology. They start to be more efficient. They want to adopt new technology because they know that from the experience of the father, of the mother working in agriculture can be really, really difficult and working very, very hard under direct sunlight. But now when they see the technology, when we demonstrate the technology of drone in the agriculture community, so many farmers amazed with this technology, even the old one. And they start to ask, how much is the price, where to buy, if I want to adopt this, who will teach us to fly this drone? And also a lot of young people watching around, and they start to be amazed with this technology. This is only the drone generation 1 that we demonstrate. Now the drone itself is evolving, not just generation 1. The drone generation 1 is without sensor. So when you fly with remote control, if you don't really be careful, it may crash and hit the wall or hit the tree on site. But when you have the drone generation 2, it's all with 360 degree of sensor, including the sensor of elevation. So when you spray on the hilly area, it will automatically being adjusted, moving up based on the sensor that they put into the bottom of the aircraft. That is a generation 2. All the sensor will protect you from the crash. But generation 3, the ability to recognize the problem on the crops start to happen, because now they become smart and smarter. So generation 3 having the ability to recognize the problem in the crop, but still using sensor, distance sensor. But then later on with generation 4, it will be totally amazing, because the artificial intelligence being put into this drone technology. So they are able to recognize this is pest, disease, and then when you want to spray tree, they automatically turning around like this. One tree, 200 milliliter, they spray exactly 200 milliliter one tree and move to another one, circling 200 milli, 200 milli. You can control everything with this technology and without remote control anymore, because this is autonomous, that you just map the field. You need to have another drone to map the field with high precision. That's why sometimes many people say precision agriculture. When you spray this with high precision, you don't need to have remote control anymore. It will fly automatically, and then spray after the job finished, it will land automatically, land it safely. So when the farmer wants to spray, not in the future, starting from even yesterday, even last year, the farmer may just sit down and chit chat with a friend, take a coffee, and this drone did the job automatically.
Fantastic, exciting stuff. I've actually got more questions, but I'm conscious of the fact we're running out of time and we're ignoring Imron here a little bit. So perhaps just to wrap up, if I was to ask you, Imron, what excites you about the role of technology, particularly with regards to improving the livelihood of smallholder farmers into the future? You know, you're an optimist, you're an entrepreneur. What is it that really excites you?
I think technology should be relevant to people, because otherwise then it's sort of like, it's actually quite scary. But you have to face the fact that it is there to replace your mundane job. There's no way out of it. So we have to prepare the farmers to switch jobs to something a little bit more on the higher path. And right now, like Suhendro said, the biggest problem with smallholder farmers is the land size, especially in Java. Our data shows their size average is only a quarter of hectares, which even if you plant weeds, they don't make money out of it. So land consolidation is the key, and right now technology should be there to help how to accelerate this land consolidation. Because we have to move fast. Land conversion in some area in Java, it's 8% per year. Imagine that, 8% per year land conversion. So in some part of Java, we don't have any sawah left in 10 years' time if you don't move very fast. So that's why the key strategy towards doing anything should be scale. Whatever the technology is should be allowing you to scale very fast. That's why we aim to cover at least the whole East Java in 2 years' time. That's quite ambitious. That's about 3 million farmers. But if you don't reach the numbers in millions, we don't have any impact. There's no dent. You know, if we're just doing pilot for 10,000 farmers, there is no dent. And it's too late. So everything should be with the scaling in mind. So, and blockchain could be one of the solutions, because if we can use blockchain as a way to tokenize the land, so the farmers don't worry that their land is being, you know, manipulated by someone else. So we can have better trust in terms of how we can consolidate and then distribute the wealth back to the farmers. Maybe that's also another technology we should look into. But whatever it is, that we should be, because the biggest hurdle is not applying the technology, it's the social engineering of this. Because what actually slow down is not technology, it's human. We reach the ceiling of our partners' banks. You know, the target of reaching the ceiling is 1 year. We reached the ceiling in 3 months. And right now they're having difficulties in terms of asking permission from the boards of raising the ceilings. And because we have to move that fast. And technology will allow us to do that. But the stumbling block is the bureaucracy, and we need also to make it relevant, the social engineering of it. Like, for example, apps. We found out that farmers, the biggest reason they adopt smartphone is not because they want to improve their productivity. They need entertainment. They need entertainment. So you have to acknowledge that. So if you want the farmers to use smartphones, selling them movies, not telling them that, hey, these things will gonna give you better tips on farming. They get tired of doing that all day.
Okay, with that, please thank Dr. Suhendro, Dr. Imron. Insightful comments. Thank you.